I know you're into animation, right? There's so many artists, creative people in Africa who would love to have a way of expressing their art that allows them to reach a massive customer base. If you've got someone that does pottery or wood carving or something, but that person can actually transfer those skills into another form of expressing their creativity, or actually take that and do something with it, maybe do 3D imaging or whatever. And then they can use that. Once it becomes digital, it can become global, right? And they have access to the entire world, and they start generating an income stream for that. So there's the investing piece where someone has an idea and then you invest in that if you can. But there's also the sharing of capabilities and knowledge and things like that. If the power issue, right, I think just like mobile phones have changed the world and changed the lives of many people, I think there might be, but what's the version of mobile phones that produces power, right? I'm thinking of this portable solar panels of some sort everybody can get, because the abundant resource, the greatest resource we have in Nigeria, for example, is sunshine. There is so much sunshine. Oh my God, it's so hot. People use air conditioning everywhere. People hide in shade to not get skin burns or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because today I was listening to a podcast, and I guess this is part of what you talk about when you talk about sharing knowledge and resources and community. So I might as well share this on this podcast. I was listening to another podcast today called This Week in Startups. And in the episode that I was listening to was a company called Exowatts, EXO-Watt, as in the units of power measurement. They've actually developed the simplest but apparently most efficient way to give data centers a lot of power, because now there's a rush to build a lot of data centers because of AI, and AI requires a lot of powerful GPUs and CPUs. The data centers need to be bigger and they consume so much power. I think they said like 100 megawatts data center consumes the same power as 800,000 homes. That is how much power these data centers are consuming. What this company has done, Exowatts, is they've built a container, and inside the container is a material. Let me simplify it for the audience. It's basically like a rock, and on top of the container are solar lenses, not solar panels, solar lenses. And what those lenses are is like holding a magnifying glass to the sun to concentrate heat onto a rock, and you heat that rock. Yeah. And that's basically the mechanics that they're going through with regards to how they are storing or charging this material. And the thing is, when the sun hits those solar lenses, it heats up the material, and the material stays hot during the night. I don't know what is so special about that material that allows us to stay hot during the night, but it just keeps the power and heat. It doesn't convert it to electricity, because that's when it starts becoming inefficient. It just keeps it as heat. And these containers, it's literally like a shipping container. And now these data centers are now buying hundreds of thousands of this, because like these things are so power dense that if we just have like 1,000 of these, we can power our entire data center factory next to it. And a single one of those things will be more than enough to power any home. When I was listening to the podcast, I was like, this thing is revolutionary. If they can take it to Africa, we completely remove the whole power problem. There would be no need to rely on the grid. I think they call it the P3. That's the name of this thing that they've developed.
Are they sponsoring this podcast, mate?
Yeah, I know. I was going to say.
No, they're not. They should reach out. But the reason I mentioned them as a way of maybe solving the power problem is because the data centers are interested in buying thousands. So that's going to be like millions, and they're willing to pay for that because they want to win this AI race. But how much is one of those containers? And one of the containers, I think he said it was like $7,900. And it's more than enough to power your home. A whole container is probably too much to power your home. They'll probably give you like half of it just for your home. So $7,900 to power your home for life using that thing is pretty impressive. But yeah, these are some of the things that we need to be aware of. These are some of the things we need to be exploring.
Yes, those kind of things. If we can find all the smart people outside of Africa should think about how do we make energy, how do we democratize energy in the form of as small as or reasonable sized device that gives you enough power depending on anything. No need for cables, no need for generators, no need for diesel or whatever it is. It's just free sunshine. That will be the next thing that will just take Africa way beyond our imagination, really.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is not going to try and solve that problem for us because it's not in their interest to do that.
Yeah.
We need to solve that problem for ourselves. And once we do that, then we completely no longer actually need the rest of the world.
Yeah, to be fair, I've always been telling Sumera that we can't rely on them to help us up, because I feel like the entire capitalist world structure relies on the cheapening and the labor of the global south. If we want to improve ourselves, if we want to help ourselves, we have to do it ourselves, which is part of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, because I don't think there's only so much they would do. They're not going to go against their best interest. Like I said, no one's going to go against their best interest for
Yeah.
you. If they do a little bit to help you, sure, that's fine. But you have to be willing to take it on and go on that journey yourself. Your other advice, also very useful.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm deep in your advice a lot more. The more I think about it, the more I expand and explore it. But yeah, another interesting thing that I wanted to explore with you was, actually, you said you would bring it up if you feel like you want to bring it up. That I shouldn't just say it, but I do want to
ask
explore it.
ask me. Go ahead. I forgot anyways.
All right, cool. You are an NLP practitioner, Neuro-Linguistic Programming.
Practitioner.
Explain it. And Sumera, this is your chance to question the life out of it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've done lots of interesting things on my journey of, I'll say, developing confidence and understanding human beings. I've done acting and drama lessons. I've done creative writing courses, gone on art, when people go to art galleries and then as a group and then the draw and all of that. I've done that as well.
Wait, are you just interested in all these things randomly? Or like, where is this need to understand where is this coming from? What is driving this exploration?
What I'm hearing is just any skill that I'm interested and I want to acquire, I will try and develop it.
To be able to effectively communicate with people, you need to understand their context. You need to understand the words that you choose to connect with that person in that particular point in time. And you also need to have the persona for that context that allows them to be ready to receive what you're saying. If you go in front of an audience and you have to be an Indiana Jones character, right? You need to be able to say, okay, I'm going to do Indiana Jones today and I'm going to say these things because these particular people have this kind of profile. And then you'll switch on that character. And so that's the acting and drama, right? And the public speaking. Then the creative writing is, how do I then prepare the script I'm going to say when I'm doing that thing? And then the understanding of human behavior, so I can know the choice of words to use, is where some of the NLP comes in. What's the identity that this person has? What's the environment that they find themselves in? What's driving their behavior? What's motivating them? What's their goal? And then you can craft what you're going to say because you have context and a framework that you're going to use to have that conversation. The NLP is a tool that allows you to bring lots of capabilities into play. Whatever works, as they say in NLP, to make change happen. Is just, that's what it's all about. At some point, I had a confidence challenge as well. And I had to say, no, why am I not confident? And that's after I moved to the UK. But again, growing up, I wasn't always in front of people. I wasn't always talking and things like that. I was more of an introvert. Finding yourself in a space where you're, in fact, even now a minority and you're an introvert, how do you flip that? That's focus on learning the skills that allow me to be able to switch on an extroversion as and when I need it. So I think people like me are called ambiverts now, where when you're in your own space and you're comfortable, you just do your thing. And when you have to switch it on, then you do that as well. But the ability to make that change, it just doesn't happen. You have to learn the skill. I did an NLP practitioner course just by accident. I can't remember how I got this email. It was this Groupon voucher thing where you get discounts on. I was looking at my Groupon and I saw, 2 days NLP course for 49 quid. No, actually, when I found out about NLP, my kids went to private school. And when they went in their primary school, I was having a chat with the head of the school, the head teacher. And she just said, have you heard of Paul McKenna? I was like, what's that? She said, that he teaches NLP. I said, what is NLP? And then she said, go and find out yourself. I went and researched on Paul McKenna. Okay, this looks interesting. And then I saw that Groupon thing that says, for £48, come and do 2 days of NLP calls. That's really cheap. I'll have it go. So I went there for a weekend. And of course, when you go there and you pay the £48 for 2 days, and for the remaining 5 days of a 7-day course, just for £200 more, you get this very full 7-day practitioner course that normally goes for £2,000. I was like, oh shit.
They know how to sell, right? Using their own NLP techniques.
I was already in it, but I was loving it so much. I said, okay, you know what? 200 quid for this kind of knowledge. Oh my God, I'm going to be like in people's minds everywhere. So I did that and absolutely loved it. And I attended a few NLP conferences. This is a really strange conferences. You have like 250, maybe 300 NLP practitioners in one massive conference center. I was like, oh God, everybody's like looking really strange and all with different techniques. And they're like, don't hypnotize me. But they're really good fun. Honestly, they're really good fun. You talk about really different things. You talk about some submodalities. Yeah, it's a tool. Like any tool, you can use it for good or for bad, right?
Do you know how to use that tool, Samira?
So, clinical psychologist, we don't train in NLP. The overlap is that you can use NLP to help people, right? Psychology and NLP, the bigger aim is to be able to help people and make change. The way we do that will be slightly different. I'm sure there's so many overlaps. From the little knowledge that I have about NLP, there's a lot of overlap in some of the languages. There are some clinical psychologists who also, mostly in America, also train in NLP. I guess we work more with mental health difficulties and issues, especially within like a clinical setting. Whereas if we were to work privately as psychologists, there is this more space for people to grow and change, less about treating and more about growth and changing with behavior. But yeah, there's a lot of overlap. And I guess the training is very different and the accreditations and the science behind it all. I wanted to ask Peter whether you did the course mostly for yourself and you utilize it in kind of your current work, or do you also work as an NLP practitioner?
I don't do that. I've got too much going on to start developing that. Personally, when I have conversations with people who are distressed about something that happened at work or a challenge that they've experienced and all of that, and they're upset, I just have a conversation with them. They don't come to me saying, oh, I've got a problem, come and treat me or whatever. The way I have that conversation with them, I ask some questions that challenge the way they're thinking about it, and they help them to think, to reframe the context, reframe the situation, and then start to see things differently.
Yeah.
And it helps them to move off from that experience and say, okay, actually, I feel more empowered now. I can go back to that space and I can have a different conversation. I can ask a different question.
It's really good. I suppose it's a bit like psychologists who have friends that are not psychologists, or someone like Hamid. When we're having conversations, I suppose the kind of, even though you're not being a psychologist in that moment, naturally you're going to ask some questions and be able to get to a point. That's why we end up being the therapist friend even outside of our work. Yeah, you can switch it on and off, but naturally you're not going to not use skills that you have if it's going to be helpful.
I get told off sometimes, stop that. Don't use that NLP shit on it.
Yeah, you're analyzing me right now. But yeah, I would say NLP and some of like the neuro-linguistic is very connects to cognitive behavioral therapy, because you're thinking about the brain, the cognitions and the thoughts, and then the behavior. I think for me, that would be the closest connection I can make.
Do you know, can I just say for me, I actually don't fully know what NLP is. We've been talking about it for so long. I know what it stands for, but what does it actually mean? What does it do? What is the point? What is this?
How does it help people change their behaviors, you mean, by using neuro-linguistic programming?
Is that what it does?
Yeah. Peter, go ahead. The floor is yours.
The use of language where you talk with people and ask questions that allows them to explore their internal framing of situations that they find themselves in. And you ask questions. If you understand the fact that when you're looking at something, the information you're receiving in your head, your brain is distorting, deleting what you're getting in to only focus on the things that you care about at that point in time. Yeah. And once you narrow your attention to those things, it would always be within the context of your identity, your behavioral experience over the years. And that then determines how you react. So what NLP does is for you to be able to think differently about situations. So you start to notice what you notice, okay? And then you ask yourself, why am I noticing only that thing? And then you step back and look around and say, oh, there's more to notice. And you expand your mind. And then you say, actually, this thing is not all about that one thing that went wrong, because now you see that actually there are other things that were working at the same time. And then you have more choice, more resource that allows you to then attack that problem in a different way.
It's very changing patterns and behaviors. Yeah. But everything you've said is something I would describe in psychology. Context is really important. Your identity, how you're influenced, your behaviors are a product of your influence growing up in your context. And context can mean many different things. But yeah, even like reframing, as you say, like cognitive reframing, restructuring, all techniques and how to help people change patterns and behaviors.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is kind of required, especially if we're thinking about the aim of this podcast. Hamid always talks about this mindset shift. Like, how do we get people to shift their mindsets? Because
I'm trying to spark a revolution.
yeah, so he's basically asking, how do you do that using NLP?
The unfortunate thing, though, is that people see some kind of dark psychology.
You guys have powers.